Welcome to my home lab. Today we're going to extend our Traefik Docker Compose with HTTPS. We're also going to use Pihole and Portainer. We start on the website from Traefik. So today we're going to extend our Traefik setup with HTTPS and let's encrypt certificates. We're going to use Cloudflare. It's a free account. You're going to see that later on the video. So we're going to create let's encrypt certificates. For this, I have two domain names from Strepto. It's very cheap. See it here. We're going to use the second one for today. I have set it up in Cloudflare. See, both domain names. So we're going to use this one. At the end of this video, we're going to bring Pihole and Traefik together. You see, now I use an IP address. So we're going to create at the end of this video a domain name with a let's encrypt certificate. We also going to use Portainer. Set it up in Traefik. I have here my local domain name. It's not secured, so we're going to secure it also. The first step is to create a key on Cloudflare to connect with let's encrypt. So we have here our domain name. Go to Profile, API tokens. See, I have my token here. I'm going to show you how to create one. Create token. Click on it. Edit zone DNS. Use template. We have zone DNS edit and zone read. Include specific zone. We open it and we select our domain name. This is the domain name I'm going to use. We have more configuration, but for now, I don't need that. Continue to summarize. Here you have everything you need and create token. Here you have the token. Don't worry about the safety because later I remove everything. It's very important to copy that and save it on a safe place because you only see it once. You can click on it here and to copy it. We go back to the tokens. Et voila. We have our second token. Now I go to my OpenMediaVault 8 dashboard. Another important thing is to change the ports for my OpenMediaVault because port 80 and port 443 are going to be used by Traefik. So you go to System, Workbench, Settings. You see, I have changed the port. So I changed port 80 to 81 and 443 to 444. You see it here in the bar, 443. Because you need the ports 80 and 443 for Traefik. Next, we go to our services, compose, files. See, I have a lot of containers. Today we're going to use nginx, especially nginx-https for today. You see, it's running. The one nginx with nothing is from the previous video. The one here is for testing. I have also the same Traefik from the previous video. today we use traefik-https. Again, it's running. We have also on this computer our Portainer. We're going to use that to connect to Traefik. We're going to use Traefik to connect to Portainer on a safe way. We're also going to use Pihole, but that's on a different server. We have also a couple of config files. So we have config.conf, traefik-https.conf, traefik-https. This one we're going to use today. Also the config we're going to use today. The traefik.conf is from a previous video. Also remember, networks. We have created in the previous video a traffic bridge network. On this network we use Traefik and our nginx container. The container with Portainer is on a different network. So we're going to use a different approach to connect to Portainer than for nginx. So we go back to files. The first thing we do is to view the traefik-https. Edit. Go down a little bit. The first thing you see here, we have our Cloudflare token. See, it's a different token. That's from a previous setup. So Cloudflare DNS API token. See, we use that token here on the environment. So we have Cloudflare DNS API token and we connect to here, to the environment variable. If you want to secure the dashboard with credentials, so with a user and a password, I have here also Traefik dashboard credentials. We use that here. For the moment, it's commented out, but if you want, you can use that. We're going to show that later on. So we start with service, reverse proxy, you can call it whatever you want. Container name, Traefik, again, it's up to you. Image, Traefik latest. The ports, we only need 443 because I only want secure connections. So 8080, you can remove it or you can comment it out. Next, we have our environment variable, the Cloudflare token, and we have a couple of volumes. The first volume is to connect to Docker. So Traefik can connect to Docker, sorry. So you can see we have a new container. Then we have traefik-https.conf. So one of the configuration files. We connect it to etc traefik.yaml, read only. So here we have our config file, the first one. We have a second config file, config.conf. See, again, here we use conf because OpenMediaVault can handle YAML, but you have to write it in YAML so Traefik can read it. So here we have conf, and inside the container we use YAML as the extension. So again, we have configuration, the same, etc traefik config.yaml read only. Then we have a file for our certificates. The biggest step are labels. So here, Traefik enable true. That means Traefik can read everything here and connect to the dashboard. The first three are for an insecure connection, so HTTP, but I have commented out because I don't use that, but if you want, you can use that. So Traefik, HTTP, routers, then we have here dashboard HTTP, that's a name, you can use whatever you want. Next, rule, then host, dashboard, and the domain name. So we have this one here is the domain name. or a second domain name. So you can use two domains to connect to the dashboard. You see that later on the video. So we're going to use dashboard or traffic. And we have a router, again, dashboard HTTP. This one has to be the same as this one. It's a service, API, internal. And next, we have same traffic, HTTP, routers, dashboard, HTTP. Again, these three needs to be the same, but you can call it whatever you want. An entry point, web. You're going to see that web is inside one of the configuration files. The biggest step is the secure one. So again, we secure our dashboard, traffic, HTTP, routers. Now we change the name, dashboard HTTPS. So again, this name you can choose whatever you want, but in every step it has to be the same name. See, 1, 2, 3, all the same name. TLS, true. So we're going to use secure connection. Then we have our shared resolver. Again, that's for inside one of the configuration files. Then we have our domain name and a wildcard. We use the wildcard because we have a security for dashboard, for traffic. We have one for Portainer, one for nginx, and one for Pihole. So we use a wildcard. The next step is to entry points web secure. So here we have web. That's a step in our configuration file. We have also web secure. Again, we see that in a minute. Then we have our host. Again, dashboard with the domain name or traffic with the domain name. This one is the same. Only the name, dashboard HTTP, changed to dashboard HTTPS. And next is our API internal. Again, we can secure our dashboard with a password with this step. So first, we create a middleware auth. Again, this one you can call whatever you want, but this one and this one has to be the same. So here we set it up, and here we configure it. Traffic dashboard credentials is here. I'm going to show you in a minute how to create a username with a password. Because this one is user, is a name, and this one is password. And we go to the next, the networks. That's the same from the previous video. And I have shown you that we have on our networks a traffic network. It's a bridge network. Restart unless stopped. And here we set up our traffic network. We use external because every time we start up our container, we don't have to create a network because our network is already created. So you can cancel that. The next step is our nginx container. Click on it and edit. Open it a little bit. Again, we have here our dashboard credentials. So if you want to secure nginx, you have here a username, and again, the second is password. Maybe important to tell you, we have a double $sign. You're going to see that later on in a minute. And services, nginx, you can call it whatever you want. Also the container name, it's up to you. Image, nginx latest. Restart and then stopped. The network, traffic. So nginx and traffic are on the same network. So we can use labels. If you're not on the same network, you cannot use labels. So labels enable traffic. Again, the unsecure connection is quite simple. You have a host, nginx with the domain name, and an entry point web. Again, web, we're going to see that in our config file. We have the secure configuration, host, domain name, TLS is true, so we activate TLS. Our cert resolver is again Cloudflare, it's the same from our dashboard. Also the domain names, the domain name and the wildcard, it's the same. Maybe important to tell you, here we use nginx-http as the name and nginx-https. So it's important, the name here, it's all the same, but it cannot be the same like in the dashboard, because in a minute before we use dashboard HTTPS. You have a different name. So we continue with domain name, the wildcard, web secure. Again, we're going to see that in a minute. And if you want, you can secure our nginx container. So again, nginx-https, a middleware auth. So again, the auth here is the same here. Basic authentication users is this one. So we connect to our environment file. Cancel that. Then we go to our config files. So it's very simple to create. We go to config, add. We give it a name, a description, and we select a compose file. So if you want to connect to traefik-https, you have to select traefik-https, and here you write the code. I have prepared the code already, so I can remove it. Yes. So first we start with traefik-https.conf. I told you before, the .conf is important here. We cannot use .yaml because OpenMediaVault don't accept that. So we select it and edit. So we have our file name, we have some description and our compose file. So this configuration file is, we go back to our files, to this container. And edit. So we have some global configuration. Check for new version false. You can change that if you want. You can set it to true. Send anonymous usage, again false in my case. We have API dashboard true. So we use the dashboard. Debug true. We're going to use that in a minute. We're going to see that later on the video. Insecure true. We comment it out. So insecure is false. Insecure true is if you don't use certificates. Our log level for the moment is debug, but you can change that later on to info or whatever you want. Then we have our entry points. Change that a little bit. If you remember that from the configuration files, we have a web entry point and a web secure entry point. This name and this name has to be the same like in the config files. The address is port 80, and for port 80 we have a redirection to our web secure. So if something come in on port 80, automatically Traefik change that to 443. That's our redirection. Then we have our resolver, our certificate resolver. You see, here we use Cloudflare. Remember that in the configuration files from the Docker Compose, we use Cloudflare. The Cloudflare is this one here. We use Acme. Then we have two servers, two Let's Encrypt servers. The first one we use now is for production. But if you make a mistake, if you make too much mistakes, Let's Encrypt will block you for a couple of hours or even days. So for testing, use the first server. The second, this one, staging. If you see we have no errors, you can use this one. So it's very simple. You comment it out and you comment out this one. So you can change that. Then we have our email. It's the email from my YouTube account. Let's Encrypt will inform you if the certificates are no more valid. Then we have storage for the certificates. You see here var traffic search acme.json. We have used that in our traffic container. Maybe we go back. So files, traefik-https, open it. You see here var traffic search read write. This is the volume. So this one has to be the same like in the configuration files. We go back, edit, back a little bit, make it some bigger. So storage, we know that. Then we use DNS challenge. We have some delay. Not always necessary. You can set it up. Our provider is Cloudflare. So Cloudflare this time is here the Cloudflare with the domain names. Important is you have to use the DNS records from Cloudflare. So 1.1.1.1 port 53 or 1.0.0.153, the port 53. That's for DNS. Next, we have our provider for Docker. The volume from Docker sock. Exposed by default, false. So this means exposed by default means if you create a new container, you have to use, I go back, open it, edit. You have to use traffic enable is true. So you have control about it. Config files, yes, edit. So we are almost at the bottom. And the last part is our external configuration file. Again, etc traefik-config.yaml. This one. We use that. Back. Yes. Edit. We have here the volume. That's this one. So the last file we have to look at it is the configuration. Again, .conf, because YAML is not accepted by OpenMediaVault. We select it and edit. We have here some middleware. The middleware have some headers. We can extend that. We have also a redirection scheme and a special one for Pihole. See that here, Pihole redirect. We have that to do because we need an admin subdomain. You see that later on, we're going to use that. Then we have some routers. This one is for external services. So our Portainer. So this Portainer is here. You can call it whatever you want. It's a web secure. Remember that from our configuration file traffic. We have our host name. So Portainer dot and the domain name. We have some middleware. Default security headers is this one. Our HTTPS direction scheme is this one. So also if you use HTTP Portainer dot the domain name, we're going to be redirected to HTTPS. See here, security is enabled and we have our service. So here we connect to a service. The service, it's a load balancer to the IP address or the domain name from Portainer in my case. So Portainer is http server.01 myhomelab.eu port 9000 and passhost header true. Next, we have the same for Pihole. Again, our entry point is web secure. It's the same. Our rule host is now we use Pihole dot the domain name. Our TLS also enabled. We have our service Pihole, see that here, but we have different middleware. Here we have our Pihole redirect. So Pihole redirect is this one. It's important to do that because otherwise you cannot connect to Pihole. At last, we have our Pihole service, our load balancer. The service server is pihole.myhomelab.eu. Pihole.myhomelab.eu is a local domain inside Pihole and pass host header true. So this is all the configuration. We're going to wrap up. So we have our nginx compose file. We have our traefik-https compose file. We have two config files, config.conf and traefik-https.conf. So to do everything today, we have 4 files. Also, remember, I told you already before, we have our traffic network. Then I go to my Pihole. See? I see it here on my IP address and it's not secured. We go to settings, local DNS records. So the domain name we use today, willyhomelab.eu, the one from Strato and Cloudflare, is local. So we connect it to 192.168.129.108. So this is the IP address from my server. Next, we have a couple of subdomains. So dashboard, we use that in a minute. We have seen that in the configuration file. Dashboard dot the domain name is connected to the domain name. Nginx is from a previous video. Then we have the nginx.willyhomelab.eu is from this video. Again, it's connected to my domain name, local domain name. Then we have Pihole is connected to this one. And you see here we have 192.168.129.97. We have seen that in the configuration files. And next we have traffic, also Portainer. Sorry. You're gonna see that traffic dot the domain name and dashboard, the domain name connects to the same page. We have also our Portainer, see, on server.01 myhomelab.eu with the port. Again, we're going to connect this Portainer with traffic. So I open a new tab. The first thing we do is to go to dashboard dot the domain name. Click on it, et voila. And it's secured. Secure connection. Certificate is valid. You see it here. It's a valid certificate from Let's Encrypt. And it's valid until September. See the domain name, Let's Encrypt, and valid. I close that. We're going to not see it all, but we're going to, you see, we use port 80 and 443. Mostly 443 because I commented out all the configuration for port 80. We have some routers. So we have dashboard, so the one we use now, and traffic connects to the same service. It's traffic, dashboard or traffic. And it's web secure entry point. Then we have our nginx. You're going to see that in a minute. Again, web secure. Then we have our Pihole, web secure, and our Portainer, web secure. The last one is an unsecure connection, but that's a redirect. So if we come here on the web, automatically we go to web secure. You see, you have names and other services. So the API internal is for the dashboard. The nginx-https is for our container. And we connect to Pihole and Portainer. Loop internal is also an internal one. Then we have some services. The internal one for the dashboard. The dashboard is the one we use. Nginx, Pihole, Portainer, and our redirect. We have some middlewares. I've seen that. The headers, the redirect scheme, the Pihole redirect, and the redirect from web to web secure. So in this one, automatically, if we come on port 80, we go to port 443. Sorry. You see here that's an unsecure, so automatically we go to there. If we use HTTPS, we have the same page. We have our welcome to Nginx. You see, Nginx with the domain name. This one is the unsecure, the HTTP. This one, you see it, is HTTPS. Again, we click on it and it's worked perfectly. Then we go to the dashboard with traefik.the domain name. Click on it, and voila. So we have two addresses for one site. We have seen that here on top. Then we have Portainer. Again, click on it, Portainer.the domain name. And automatically we go to the login page. Next, and the last is Pihole. Again, we click on it and we can log in. Again, Pihole, domain name, and again, it's secured. See, the domain name is this one, and let's encrypt, and it's the same until September 30. For the last step, I'm going to show you how to secure our traffic dashboard with a username and password. So we go back to traefik-https, edit, and as you can see, we have here our traffic dashboard credentials. First, we need to create that. I have an online tool, user, in my case, password. It's not secure, but for now, that's okay. And here you have the output. So this one you can copy and paste it in the file. You see here we have $1 sign. 1, 2, 3. In our configuration here, we have 2 extra dollar sign. We have here 2. It's important. We have an extra dollar sign. So we go back to the bottom and we comment out the 2 lines for the username and password. We save it. We select our traefik-https down. So we stop the container, end of line, close, okay. See, it's down, select it again, and up. We run the container. So we restart the container. Again, end of line, no problem, close it, and voila. The container is running. Now we open a new tab and go to our dashboard. Et voilà. User, password, login, et voilà. Our dashboard is secured with a username and a password, and with a Let's Encrypt certificate. The last time we go back, we select our nginx, edit. Same you can do for nginx. Again, you can secure it with a username and a password. Et voilà, we are at the end of this video. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe, give a thumbs up, or leave a comment. See you later, and thank you very much.